welcome to another episode of The Dope Librarian. I'm excited to bring you all yet another video, as always. Today, I'm going to be doing a book review and a book discussion. So, there'll be 4 parts to this one book, and it's quite exciting. This was a recent pick, so if you are interested in seeing what book it is, if you don't already know by the title actually, then yes, keep on watching and just be sure to like, click, subscribe, and share. Yeah, I'm super excited. Today we're going to be talking about An American Marriage by Tayeri Jones, whom I actually had the pleasure of meeting, if you all watched my vlog, and who signed the book for me. So this book is an Oprah Book Club of the Month, and that's what the little symbol here is. She is an author who has 4 previous titles, or 3 previous titles: Leaving Atlanta, Silver Sparrow, and The Untelling. So if you are interested in her work, or if you've already read this book and you want to read her others, go check those out. Or if after you hear me talk about this book, you want to go check the others out, definitely do so. She is a Black author. Yeah, quite amazing. So anyway, let's start off with this. Did I like the book or not? Yes. Overall, I'm saying yes to this book. I would recommend it. Before we get into the reasons why I would recommend it, I want to start off with the reasons why I did not like the book. Okay, so this book was touted as a book that sort of jogs or starts a conversation around the injustice of our prison systems and how it impacts Black men specifically. So in the book, we have a character, Roy, and this is all from the front flap, so you can definitely see this from the beginning of it. You have a character named Roy who is falsely accused of rape and is sentenced to prison in a country prison down in Louisiana. He's college educated. He's recently married. They've been married for 18 months, and he was sentenced to 12 years in prison. On the night in question of the rape, he was laying in bed next to his wife. So there's no question from her or the family about his innocence. So now that we got that out the way, here is why I did not like it. For a book that is supposed to be discussing the prison system and its impact on Black men, I think that the book sort of glossed over that in a sense. And once again, I was able to hear her speak, and she didn't want to give too many details about prison life, because we can see that from watching various TV shows or reading different books or documentaries and movies. So while I understand not wanting to go too deep, I think it went the opposite direction and was probably a little too it did not provide enough information. So prison is hard if you're a guilty person. Prison is not a place that anyone wants to go, but it's especially hard if you're innocent. And I believe that instead of providing us some of the flashbacks, as she did, of Roy, of his time in prison, instead of the flashbacks, I would have preferred to see it in real time as it was happening. And I would have wanted to see maybe more stories. We learned about a near-death experience while he was in prison, but it was after he was already out of prison. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that we did not get to see more of the impact that prison had on his family. So like how his mom and dad were handling their son, whom they were so proud to have sent to a college, an HBCU down in Georgia, Morehouse. How was this impacting them? So that was one of my first things that I did not like about the book, is just that it somehow missed the mark for me in giving more breadth and depth to the argument, to the conversation about prison system and the need for prison reform and the criminal justice system. Just wanting to lock someone up and not doing more of an adequate investigation, or just something more. That was something that I wanted to see. Another thing that I disliked about the book was the fact that no one, okay, I don't want to say no one, that there was not as much of a fight for this innocent man. So if I'm married to you, or if you're my son or whatever, I'm getting newscasters, newspapers, local, national. I'm doing everything I can to bring light to the situation. And that did not happen here. I mean, that could just be more of a, not necessarily a book flaw, but that's just one thing that I don't like about the book, that the wife in this book did not do more. In fact, as her husband is sitting in jail, her career is taking off, and instead of using that platform to sort of, come to his defense, she actually shies away from it, saying that it would detract from her career. And so from there, I think we all sort of knew at that point, which is what the front of the book kind of tells you, that this relationship was doomed, and it probably would have been doomed one way or the other if he had never gone to prison. This relationship probably would have been over. And so for the most part, like, those were my two biggest gripes with the book. It did not give, I think it gave a pretty good show of the relationship, in the sense of her feelings, and by her I mean the wife's feelings about the marriage, and her state of, feeling about herself and what she should do while her husband's in prison. And I think we got a little bit of his mindset, but there were some storylines that were not necessarily needed. Maybe like some of the parents weren't as necessary. They didn't give us enough information about her. Essentially, sorry, spoiler alert, but she starts to date someone whom was already a character in the book, who we already knew existed. But the book didn't give enough information about sort of how that came to happen, about the friendship between that guy and Roy, because they were friends. So we didn't get to see enough of that, and we didn't get to see enough of the relationship prior to the imprisonment. And a part of that may be because the author is trying to show us how short-lived, like, their actual marriage was. But I think it would have made for the reader. So the reader is supposed to walk away feeling like, okay, you have this innocent man in prison. How does this marriage last? How does it continue after this? Do they stay married? Do they divorce? And are there reasons why they should divorce, or reasons why they should stay married? A really, really big indicator, or something that should have been brought more to the reader's attention, would have been the affairs that it's hinting at that Roy had prior to being imprisoned. Okay? So I think that would make it made it more of a toss-up for the reader. The book is intended to sort of make us like, oh my God, like, how do you? Is someone right or is someone wrong? And that someone being Celestial, the wife, in deciding for herself, do I stay in a marriage for 12 years when I've only been married for 18 months? Or do I owe it to myself to walk away and start my life, and be able to meet someone else and do some other things? I think it would have provided much more of discussion and conversation if we had seen some of the transgressions, or a little bit more, maybe not just all transgressions, but a little bit more of the relationship prior to, even with the dating, even the 18-month period. So just telling us that they argue some, Okay, folks argue. But I think a really big thing would have been a true discussion on the affairs that I'm assuming Roy had based on the book. So overall, I do recommend this book, though. Like I said, and here are my biggest reasons for recommending it. I know you're like, well, you just said all these things you didn't like. No, there are 3 big things that I think come away from this book that do provide for a great discussion. And I'm going to talk about those in 3 different videos. So those will be really short videos. The first, and I'm kind of going to take it through the prospects of the relationship series, like dating, proposal, the marriage, and, if there is a divorce. So the first thing I want to talk about is the proposal stage. So in the book, we do get a little bit of how he proposed, and we get Celestial's father's thoughts on types of proposals. So for me, I thought that was a great conversation or a great discussion to have in terms of what is a correct proposal, how should you do it, and how should it be done in 2018, and how has it been done in relation to previous years. So I definitely want to talk about that. The second thing I want to talk about is this idea of rape and consent within a marriage. So that will be the second video. The third video will be this idea of forever. When does forever start? Like, are you a ride or die? Can you, the person who has only been married for 18 months and you are 30 years old, you're right around your childbearing age, and you're young, you're looking good, you're feeling good, 18 months married, can you then wait for someone for 12 years, which is way over the amount of time that you've even been married? So I want to talk about this idea of the ride or die, or are we truly ready for what marriage actually means? And so those are the 3 things that I thought were actually really good, that good conversation starters, good discussion starters that did in fact come out of the book. I think it challenges our idea of what forever means and what marriage means. And I think she did that by showing us a guy in prison and showing us an innocent guy in prison. And then we got to see that a lot through Celestial's letters about her feelings, what it is that she wanted to do. And so I'm going to talk about that in the next videos. So yeah, overall, once again, I do recommend this book. And there is one line in here that I actually thought was my favorite, which had nothing to do with anything else. So I'm going to read that to you all. So I did look for the quote, but I can't find it. But basically, Roy says something like, I like my women like I like my coffee black. And she responds with, I like my mimosas like I like my something translucent. And it was just the most hilarious thing to me. So, yeah, anyway. Say overall, I do think the book was good. I do think it fell flat, or it missed the mark on some of the things that it was supposed to do, particularly let us see the injustice of the prison system itself. Like the fact that he went to jail is an injustice, and that does show us the injustice, but it doesn't show us enough of it to really get the picture in people's mind, the importance of our criminal justice system from the time of arrest through prosecution. I think that it did not do enough of that, and it didn't do enough of showing the horrors of prison and why we should be more vocal, why we should be more active, and why we should be much more outraged when we do hear about any innocent person being locked behind bars, but especially with the rate of black men who are being rounded up, and minorities in general that are being rounded up and sent off to these prisons. So that's it for like the book review portion. I do think, like I say, great book. I am going to basically sit right here and record the next 3, which are going to be pretty short for the most part. So yeah, if you like it, comment, click like, share, subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Thank you.